Narcissists, with their apparent confidence and superficial charm, can hide a dark and complex reality. Behind that facade of grandiosity, their abusive behavior arises from a series of deep and damaging psychological dynamics. In this analysis, we will explore the 7 fundamental psychological factors that drive narcissists to act abusively. Let's begin. Number 1. Need for control and dominance. The need for control and dominance in narcissists is one of the main drivers behind their abusive behavior. It originates from deep insecurity and a fragile self-image, which they try to hide behind a facade of confidence and grandiosity. For a narcissist, control is essential to preserve their sense of identity and self-esteem. When they feel they are losing control over a situation or a person, they experience intense anxiety and a sense of vulnerability that drives them to regain power at any cost. This impulse to control manifests through manipulative and abusive tactics designed to reaffirm their power and keep others under their influence. Isolating the victim from their friends and family, creating an environment of fear and uncertainty, or using gaslighting tactics to make the victim doubt their perception of reality are common methods to make the person feel dependent and subordinate. Additionally, psychological and emotional abuse, such as belittling, criticizing, and humiliating others, not only ensures the victim's submission but also reinforces the narcissist's position of power, allowing them to maintain a sense of absolute control over their environment and the people around them. Number 2. Low self-esteem. Although it may seem contradictory, narcissists act abusively because, deep down, they have very fragile self-esteem and rely on external validation to feel good about themselves. This internal fragility leads them to build a facade of superiority and arrogance, as they need to feel admired and recognized constantly. When they do not receive the attention and recognition they crave, their inflated self-image is threatened, leading to a defensive response that manifests as abuse and manipulation towards those around them. This dynamic is a protective mechanism to avoid facing their own insecurities and feelings of inferiority. By denigrating and controlling others, the narcissist can momentarily elevate their own status and maintain the illusion of superiority. However, this need to maintain an idealized image of themselves at the expense of others creates a destructive cycle where abuse becomes a tool to restore their sense of worth and power. Essentially, the narcissist's abusive behavior is a desperate strategy to fill the void of their self-esteem, projecting an external strength that does not reflect their internal reality. Number 3. Lack of empathy. A lack of empathy is a central characteristic of narcissistic behavior and one of the main reasons they act abusively. Narcissists have a very limited ability to understand or value the feelings and needs of others, leading them to treat people as objects or means to achieve their own ends without considering the emotional consequences of their actions. This lack of empathy means they feel no remorse or guilt for the harm they cause. For them, others' emotions are irrelevant compared to their own desires and needs. The inability to emotionally connect with others allows them to manipulate, deceive, and control without experiencing the distress that an empathetic person would feel when seeing another human suffer. Moreover, by not recognizing their victim's pain, narcissists can justify their abusive behaviors and convince themselves they have the right to act that way. This emotional disconnection also enables them to maintain the image of superiority they need to support their fragile self-esteem, as they do not have to confront the reality of their actions or deal with the complexity of authentic human relationships. The lack of empathy, therefore, not only facilitates abuse but also perpetuates a cycle of dehumanization and control, where the well-being of others is constantly sacrificed for narcissistic needs. Number 4. Learned behavior patterns. Abusive behavior patterns in narcissists have deep roots in their life experiences, especially during childhood and adolescence, where they may have witnessed or been victims of abuse, neglect, or dysfunctional family dynamics. Growing up in an environment where manipulation, control, and lack of respect were common can lead to the internalization of these behaviors as normal and effective ways to relate to others. By observing and experiencing these dynamics, narcissists learn to see abuse as a legitimate tool to get what they want and to protect themselves from potential emotional threats. This normalization of abuse becomes an integral part of their way of interacting with the world, and they often do not recognize or accept that their actions are harmful or inappropriate. In their minds, controlling and manipulating others is a learned survival strategy, a way to avoid the pain and insecurity they experienced in their own lives. These behavior patterns become entrenched and perpetuated over time, creating a cycle that is difficult to break. As a result, narcissists continue to replicate these abusive dynamics in their adult relationships, unaware that they are repeating and reinforcing the same destructive patterns that shape them. The lack of healthy skills for relating to others and resolving conflicts constructively keeps them trapped in a cycle of abuse, where their need for control and external validation continues to be satisfied through harming others. Number 5. Need for admiration. The constant need for admiration is a fundamental drive in narcissists and a key reason behind their abusive behavior. For narcissists, receiving praise, recognition, and attention is crucial to maintaining their fragile self-esteem and inflated sense of self-importance. When this admiration is not spontaneously provided by others, narcissists may resort to abusive tactics to force the situation and obtain the validation they crave. They may use emotional manipulation, such as exaggerated flattery followed by destructive criticism, to destabilize their victims and make them feel they must strive harder to earn their approval. This cycle of reward and punishment not only provides them with the attention they seek but also reinforces their power and control over those around them. External adulation acts like a drug for the narcissist, feeding their ego and insatiable need to feel superior. However, this process of constantly seeking admiration is inherently unsustainable and always leaves the narcissist with a sense of emptiness that needs to be filled repeatedly, thus perpetuating the cycle of abuse. By using others as sources of validation, narcissists dehumanize them, seeing them not as people with their own feelings and needs but as means to an end. This emotional exploitation not only harms the victims but also prevents the narcissist from developing authentic and meaningful relationships, as they are constantly focused on their own need for admiration at the expense of others' well-being. Number 6. Projection of insecurities. The projection of insecurities is a very common defense mechanism in narcissists and one of the reasons they act abusively. This process involves narcissists attributing their own feelings of inferiority, fear, and shame to those around them, distorting reality to avoid confronting their own weaknesses. By accusing others of the flaws and failures they themselves possess, narcissists can divert attention from their own insecurities and maintain their inflated self-image. This behavior manifests in the form of constant criticism, unfair accusations, and belittling others, all with the goal of projecting their internal problems and reducing the cognitive dissonance they feel between their grandiose self-image and their fragile emotional reality. Projection allows them to maintain a sense of superiority and control, as by degrading others, they feel momentarily relieved of their own insecurities. This destructive dynamic not only causes profound emotional harm to their victims, making them doubt themselves and feel inadequate, but also perpetuates the cycle of abuse. By not confronting their own internal issues, narcissists remain trapped in a negative behavior pattern that reinforces their insecurities and increases their need to continue projecting them onto others. This vicious circle of projection and abuse creates a toxic and dysfunctional environment in relationships, where the true emotional needs of both sides are never addressed, and the well-being of others is sacrificed to maintain the fragile stability of the narcissist's ego. Number 7. Response to perceived threats. The response to perceived threats is a characteristic reaction in narcissists that drives their abusive behavior. Narcissists have an extremely inflated and fragile self-image that needs constant protection. When they perceive any criticism, disagreement, or even a lack of attention as a threat to their ego, they react disproportionately to defend their sense of superiority. This defensive response can include verbal attacks, emotional manipulation, and other forms of abuse aimed at silencing and punishing those they consider responsible for the threat. In doing so, they seek to eliminate any source of criticism or challenge to their authority and restore their control over the situation. This defensive behavior is a way to protect their self-esteem, as any questioning or sign of disapproval can trigger deep insecurity and anxiety in the narcissist. Instead of facing these uncomfortable emotions, the narcissist externalizes them, projecting them onto others and justifying their abuse as a form of self-preservation. This dynamic not only allows the narcissist to keep their self-image intact but also reinforces their need for domination and control, creating an environment where any perceived threat is quickly neutralized through aggression and manipulation. The result is a continuous cycle of abuse, where victims constantly find themselves walking on eggshells, fearful of provoking the narcissist's anger, and where the narcissist reinforces their sense of power by keeping everyone around them in a state of submission and fear. I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments. And if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.